We start, though, this Al Jazeera NewsHour in Ankara, where the NATO summit is well underway. Lots on the agenda here. Difficult relations between the NATO allies. President Trump again criticizing them over their spending and their defense budgets. The war in Ukraine, but now dominating the agenda, events in the Middle East. It started with Iranian attacks on tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Overnight, the US responded, Central Command hitting 80 sites in Iran, several injuries reported by the Iranian authorities. The Secretary General of NATO, when he arrived here, said he strongly supported the US military action, and his arrival was followed by that of the US President himself, Donald Trump, who had some extremely hard-hitting comments.
To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll speak to our negotiators. They want to negotiate. They're good people. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. But they have to come back to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. They're liars.
Well, let's discuss this further and get perspectives from different sides on this. I'm joined by Ali Akbar Dareini, and also he's in Tehran for us, an analyst there in Tehran. And also Joey Hood is in Doha. He's a former senior US diplomat. Let me start with you, Ambassador Hood. Donald Trump is never diplomatic, but these were particularly blunt comments. Do you believe diplomacy is over on this issue?
No, I don't think diplomacy is over, but I think that, as I posted on social media last night, I said, rest in peace, MoU. I do think this MoU is dead. I think it was fundamentally flawed from the very beginning, but it's now Iran that has decided to attack the mediator. And when one party to a negotiation attacks the mediator multiple times, I think that there's not much chance of success in diplomatic negotiations. So now I believe that we're in a new phase. This is no longer a war between the United States, Israel, and Iran. It is now a war by Iran on the Gulf Arab states in an attempt to control their economies by threatening commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, as long as those ships and the countries behind them don't do Iran's bidding. I don't think this is going to end well for Iran, because they've managed to alienate all the countries of the Gulf now with these multiple attacks, as well as their customers in Asia, in Europe, and in Africa. So I think that you will see a diplomatic effort here on the part of the world's countries to try to put pressure on Iran to stop threatening commercial shipping, and particularly to stop this attempted hostage-taking of the Gulf economies.
Ali Akbar, I'm sure you're not going to agree with all of the conclusions there of Joey Hood, but do you agree with his main point that the Memorandum of Understanding that was hammered out with all of that tough negotiation in Switzerland, that now, well, that was actually the implementation of it. It was actually agreed before that. But do you think that it is now dead?
Yes, it is almost dead. We saw the typical Trump today. A narcissist, rude, disrespectful, unpredictable, and mentally unbalanced. This is what we have seen from him in the past, and today he repeated himself. Not a single day has passed since he signed the Memorandum of Understanding that he has not resorted to threats against Iran, a violation of Article 1 of the MoU. He has violated all the articles of the Memorandum of Understanding. Trump has not honored his own signature, and he doesn't want to come to the fact that he signed a document giving Iran the authority to make arrangements for the safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz. He deliberately tried to create an alternative route in order to undermine Iran's position. The Americans have been trying to undermine and dismantle Iran's position one by one. Look at what they have been doing on the ground. If the Americans are honoring their commitments, why are they sending more weapons and military forces to Iran's proximity in violation of the MoU? If they are honoring their commitments, why they signed a separate deal with Lebanon and Israel in contradiction with the MoU that requires Israel to end all military operations and leave Lebanon? This shows that the Americans have not honored their commitments, and they had no intention of honoring it. Iran has followed a parallel approach, keeping diplomacy open, at the same time making preparations for the worst scenario. That's what Iranian military commanders and diplomats have been doing in conjunction with each other, and they are united in that.
Ambassador Hood, hearing the two of you, you can hear the different perspectives and how this has already turned into a memorandum of misunderstanding. Can I ask you, I know you're a veteran diplomat for the United States, can I ask you to take your US hat off for a moment? As a veteran diplomat, if you were advising the mediators, Pakistan and Qatar, what would you suggest they do now?
James, that is a really good question, because this is an unprecedented situation in which one party to a negotiation repeatedly attacks the mediator. You notice that they're not doing that with Pakistan because I think they really would not be able to withstand the response from Pakistan, with whom Iran was in a shooting war just a couple of years ago. So in this case, it's really difficult to try to help the mediators break this sort of bullying and extortion that Speaker Ghalibaf accused the United States of, but that Iran is itself engaging in. I think that what they're going to need to do is to form, as the GCC, a coalition with other states around the area, such as Pakistan and their biggest customers in Asia, and to try to put diplomatic pressure on the Iranians. You could see a few ways they could do this. For example, Pakistan could say, look, I'm sorry to have to do this, but I have a very powerful navy in the Arabian Sea, and any Iranian ship that comes through now is going to have to coordinate with me and maybe pay fees to me. You could see how Singapore and Malaysia and Indonesia together might also say any Iranian ship coming through to deliver oil to China is going to have to coordinate with me and pay fees to me. We don't want to do that, but we could be forced to do that if Iran doesn't give up its stranglehold on commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. I think those are just a few of the ways, but they're going to have to do something different than this MoU, which was deeply flawed from the beginning. I think bringing Lebanon into it without Lebanon or Israel being signatories to the agreement was a mistake. And the fact that the United States government was nonetheless able to make a historic breakthrough and find an agreement, however flawed that may be, between the governments of Lebanon and Israel should have been recognized by the Iranian side, but instead it's being used as another casus belli, which really doesn't make any logical sense. So I think the mediators are really in a pickle here, but there is no way out of this other than to continue to try to find a diplomatic solution that brings together diplomatic, military, and economic pressure on Iran to just act like a normal government with the rest of the region.
Ali Akbar, this is about diplomacy, it's about politics, it's also about people, though. Can you give me an idea of what the feeling is of the people you're talking to about the prospect of sliding back into full-scale war?
Iran is not seeking war. Iran is the victim. The United States and Israel are the aggressors. And now you see Trump effectively killing the memorandum of understanding he signed himself. And by this, America's military actions speak louder than words. America's military actions roll the situation back to before the MoU. And from there, it's likely that there will be escalation beyond control. If this is going to happen, then I suppose we are going to have a larger scale war. And in that case, Iran will go for a horizontal war, meaning a wide geographical area throughout the Middle East. Iran cannot tolerate this American attacks. Iran had warned the United States not to fire at Iran during the week-long funeral for Iran's martyred supreme leader. But Trump did it again. So Iran will make sure that this time Trump is going to pay a very high price. Iran doesn't want war, but it cannot tolerate this smaller scale military attacks aimed at targeting the infrastructure that allows Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz. This is intolerable. Iran is not going to tolerate this. Either we have permanent war, either we have a permanent end to war as promised under the MoU, or there is going to be a larger scale regional war with unpredictable consequences.
Ali Akbar Dareini and Joey Hood, thank you for joining us on Al Jazeera to discuss the situation in the Middle East.